And right now, let's dig into the headlines.
Let's do it.
CEOs are laying off workers at a record pace, betting on AI productivity that the data says isn't quite there yet. MIT tested 41 AI models against 11,000 workplace tasks and found they barely met minimum competency, with full proficiency not expected until 2029. But again, that's speculation. Mike, what we've been talking about AI psychosis since episode 1. Is the rest of the world just now catching up to show your priors?
What do you think AI psychosis is? I think we should start there because I have my definition. I'm curious how you see it.
I see it as reinforcing feelings of grandeur or things that you wouldn't normally think you would be correct at a single glance. So if an AI confirms it one time and you're just saying that's Bible truth now, I think that's a form of psychosis.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like some sort of delusions of grandeur detached from the reality on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things you see with CEOs is they often get very detached from the reality on the ground, the reality of the salespeople out there in the field, the reality of the dev teams. And the other thing is when people pitch up projects to the CEO, they put their best foot forward, right? The best possible PowerPoint, the best possible prototype. And the problem is that those prototypes often give the impression to the CEO that the AI, for example, in this case, is much farther along than it actually is. So they overestimate the capabilities of what AI can actually deliver. So I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about AI psychosis, but it's worse than typical tech psychosis because there's always hype cycles, right, in technology.
Yeah.
But this one seems to have a particularly strong feedback loop that you're actually rewarded for the psychosis on the market, right? So if I start making claims that our AI internally is going to cause leaps and bounds in efficiency and reduce our EBIT, it's going to create new digital business models, new channels to market, I actually get rewarded for that. There's no punishment for that.
Yeah.
Because why? And this is always a problem with CEO pronouncements about the future. Well, the bill only comes due in the future. And then we've seen it, and you hinted at it, people making reductions in headcount based on the psychosis, if it even is, right? We have to always have a cynical take there that maybe they know that the AI is not there yet, but you can take advantage of this very, I would say, advantageous environment for this message, and you can push through, ram through some headcount reductions you wanted to do anyway, juice your EBIT, you get rewarded by the market, call it the AI bump. What do you call it? The meme effect,
the meme
right?
effect. If my company reduces and we're all running ragged trying to make things happen, our customers aren't getting the best service, right now it's likely that my customers are in the same boat. So they're also feeling that pain of understaffing, of not having as many resources as they used to have. So it's kind of like, oh, well, if it's happening in our camp, it's okay if it's happening in your camp too. So a lot of the relationships that might suffer, could thrive through this. And also your competition is doing the same thing. So it kind of levels the playing field in that regard a bit as far as, customers are concerned, I would say. An interesting piece that I found in the Harvard Business Review, they had published a piece pointing out that when everyone using AI produces more, the bottleneck moves upstream. So now instead of the bottleneck being at production, the bottleneck is going to be at the people who review the production or approve the production. I kind of found that interesting that onus is going to be moving up the chain. What's your take?
I think that's right, and I think it's exactly where the maturity of AI is right now. And that's what people are calling slop. Like you can very quickly get a prototype out the door.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sped up that part significantly, I would say, right? Get the prototype out, ideate, put it out onto a website or whatever very quickly, get it to your bosses very quickly. I think the challenge, though, is that that's happening at an astronomical rate right now. So there are more of those projects to review. And then within any given project, the code base might be massive. And who knows if the devs or the coders have actually reviewed it. So it's the number of projects, plus inside of any given project, does the person reviewing it actually take the time to go through and review the security, bugs, privacy, that it actually serves the business interests, et cetera. So I think that's a massive part of what's going on right now. And that's a great thing, right? That we can speed up the early piece of the puzzle. Now, I've always said the biggest thing that kills your new idea is that nobody gives a damn. Customers just don't care. You're not solving anything relevant. So the good thing about speeding up is that realization for engineers comes much faster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're testing it on the market. Now, the question is, who has the courage and the bravado to tell the CEO that, hey, wait a second, our AI capabilities are not there yet? Because there's this management, I would say bravado, and there's this management mythology that when the CEO asks you, you say, it's all under control. It's all good. We're going to reach the targets, etc. So when they cut headcounts, what is your job as a manager to say, I can handle it. We'll get more with less. Radical accountability, these books and stuff you see out there. You can hear I'm a little bit skeptical of this. If you cut a fundamental resource from your business model, that is just simply risky for the business,
Yeah.
right? And it may not show up in this year's targets. And the question is, does the CEO care? They hit their targets this year, investors are off their back, they get the bump, they get the bonus. Well, what happens in 2 to 3 years? Have you fundamentally undermined your business model? You'll hear me coming back to this and back to this and back to this. Happens in PE. It's not just AI. I think it's a structural problem with the way that we incentivize management.
Yeah.
And then underneath, there's a lack of courage at middle management and below to tell the truth going upwards. That's the truth. But there's a lack of courage for a very damn good reason, because they will get punished under this idea of radical accountability. You just get it done, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter if you need to launch a major application with only one engineer, right? And then you're surprised if there are bugs or security failures, et cetera. So the hope is that AI would help that one engineer do it, but you already said the problem. One engineer without a reviewer, that's not even the business part yet. That's just the engineering piece. So I think there's going to be a big business in mopping up a lot of messes that are being created right now.
That's true. I would agree with that 100%. All right, let's go now to Robinhood, who just launched 2 products that let AI agents autonomously trade your brokerage account and spend on a virtual credit card. No human approval required on any of these transactions. This is one of the first times agentic AI has had direct access to real money at this scale. And Stripe, Amazon, and Google all have launched similar infrastructure in the same couple, I guess in these past 2 weeks, actually. Are you going to sign up for agentic credit cards tomorrow, Mike?
No. What I was curious about on this one is, will this agentic system or agents, will they outperform day traders, for example? Will they outperform, professional traders, the funds? I don't know the answer, but who would you bet on? Would you bet on the agents or would you bet on humans? Because, there's a book out there, I think it's called A Random Walk Down Wall Street. Probably you invest in index funds, so you've basically inhaled the message of that book, right? Which is, you can't beat the market.
Yeah.
There are information inefficiencies, but they're rare and they're difficult to find unless you have some sort of insider trading advantage, which we will talk about, I think, later.
I think you can beat the market, but you have to invest a lot of yourself and your time and your knowledge and learning to that. And that's not how I want to live my life. So for me, it's not worth the...
Well, and it's difficult for humans to do that. Even if you're a professional trader, you're still limited by your own human brain, your own biases, your own targets that your bosses above are giving you.
Yeah.
You're going to be pumping certain things for political reasons or for your own incentives. And the question is whether an AI can do that better. Can they ingest all the information on the market better, more efficiently? The big danger is the hallucinations. I don't know how they keep it deterministic. So deterministic, when I say that, is if you do X, you get Y, and the data is, secure, it's factual, and then the way the AI uses it, it uses it in a deterministic manner to make bets based on that data, right? Like there's a clear link between the data and what it's doing. It's not just making shit up on the fly.
Well, let me clarify the technology here a little bit. So, Robinhood is using something called MCP, which is
Yeah.
model context protocol. So you can use whatever model you want. You could use one that is looking at market data,
Yeah.
the basics of a company, the fundamentals, or you can use one that's just strictly looking at chart movements. And when it sees a pattern trigger, it's looking at that. AI trading has been going on for a while. It's one of the most successful, I think, aspects of AI right now, or the most well hashed out and reality tested part of it right now is trading. And it's, to my knowledge, you get the benefit when you are very low latency, the first people to act on a market movement. But beyond that, you're not going to be getting the value. So I'm kind of interested to see. Yeah. So if you're not, at the bleeding edge of latency and have those correct handshakes like a Citadel has, I don't know if you're going to see benefit from it.
If everybody's deploying agents, will anybody get any sort of arbitrage advantage or a time advantage? I don't know. So back to the question, humans or AI, what would you trust more as an index fund guy?
It depends on where the masses are. If the masses are in AI, I could see them ganging up on the same stocks and just loading stuff up in a very meme fashion, for no other reason than that's where volume is going. I don't know, but that's still, again, they could also do the other thing. So
Yeah, it's interesting that the AI could follow the path of the humans. Like they're a chartist, they're a fundamentalist, right?
that's true.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Depends on what the prompt is in the end.
I think the markets are also going to go to 24 hours. At least that's been rumored for a couple of years now. So if that ever does happen, then I think the robots are going to win.
Great. So we can have 24-hour CEO psychosis.
24-hour CEO psychosis, 24-hour placing your bets on whatever. I saw somebody on, I can't remember what they were betting on, but I saw somebody betting on, it was a highway camera. It was a camera looking at a highway, and there was a line, and it was how many cars would pass through that line in the next 10 minutes or something like that.
I bet $1,000. Bro, am I gonna win this? Please, 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 please. Bro, over 16? Go through. Holy shit! We just won 3.7K.
What are we doing? It's crazy. It's crazy.
Hey man, tulip mania.
Yeah, something like that. All right. Let's go now to AI coming for our jobs, as 99% of CEOs are planning AI-driven layoffs. Of course they are. Coders are now refusing to work without AI, even as research shows it's making them worse. And 1 in 3 American men have left the workforce. What's your take on this AI workforce disruption? We've already talked about it a little bit tonight, but
I'm not sure about the data behind these. The 99% of CEOs planning AI-driven job cuts. That would seem to confirm the psychosis, right? Because behind that, this is me again. I'm going to go down into like a causal model and a business model.
do it.
So does AI apply to every single business out there? Like if you're just pure hardware or a pure service business with people, actually, do you need AI? Maybe. You'd say, well, maybe the salespeople can use AI, whatever, for customer service, for, like Salesforce type tasks. So I get it. Maybe there are places. So, but it's a little crazy. 99% of CEOs, I would want to fact check that to make sure. But okay, there's that. And then the coders. So this is one of those things where you got to be careful about looking at the existing definition of a job, I think. So coders, if they're just producing code, they're in trouble, right? Because AI is basically copied. You've heard Dario say that. I think Sam Altman said the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's basically copied every possible GitHub repository out there and been trained on all the code out there. So it's going to be able to mimic that for sure. What the question would be is, how are they using it? What are they using it for? Is it for what we said earlier, like this early prototyping? But then if you want to get to scale, in security, protect privacy, can you still do it that way? Or do you have to actually go back to software engineering, like the fundamentals? I know for the application we're making, you can definitely do the vibe coding up front to test out new prompts, etc. But if you want to scale that thing into an enterprise company, no chance.
Yeah.
I sent you a list, right, from one of the IT or a digital department of the requirements for our application. They are difficult.
Yeah.
Right. And I have real engineers, real software engineers who are not just vibe coding stuff. And it's still hard, right, with traditional software engineering.
Yeah.
So what I wonder is it a shift from coding as a job description into like a software orchestrator? I know that word doesn't really exist, but that's the thought I had is if you're vibe coding the upfront piece, the lead in to the point where you actually have to do review and engineering and think about the scaling, is your job definition just shifting? Or is it really just coder, software engineer? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be a little bit careful there. Are they really putting like the death knell out there or putting the nail in their own coffin? I don't know. I think with new technologies, job descriptions probably should shift. And is that what's happening? The last thing you mentioned was the men, what was it, 1/3 of the work?
1/3 are leaving the workforce or have left the
1/3.
workforce.
So this is a long-term trend. If you show the charts, there's a long-term trend that I don't think has anything to do with AI.
Yeah.
You'd want to dig into the numbers. How much of that is retiring? How much of that is other things? I don't know. Maybe they're gaming full time. That's their job and it doesn't count.
Well,
I don't know.
the
Services.
Yeah, the like Uber Eats and Uber, just Uber.
Yeah,
regular.
the gig economy.
The gig economy, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
That takes you out of the
I don't know. I know a lot of people that just prefer that, by the way, and they're men mostly.
Nothing
But
wrong
what
with
I found interesting when I did a little research was that downward trend for men. It's been going on for a long time, and it's directly countered by an uptrend for women.
I've read
If
that
you
too.
look at the chart,
Yeah.
right? So, is that just a societal shift where women are participating much more heavily in the workforce than they did in the past? And this is just a reflection of that. And maybe, although it looks like people aren't dating anymore, but maybe in the newly found relationships, there's a negotiation about, who works and who doesn't. Maybe it's just there are more trade-offs in that calculation now, and women are working more than men did in the past because of those relationships. But again, you have to look, you see this downward thing, you got to dig into it. It's not univariate, it's got to be multivariate, and you have to look into all the variables.
Oh, you can just let your Claudebot go to work for you, and then you can date it. And
Yeah,
you
you
can
don't
even
need
talk to it at work. It won't tell
Well,
you no.
According to Elon, we're done working, right? It's post-labor.
Damn right. Interesting thing that I saw on this one was that Amazon had shut down an internal AI productivity leaderboard called Kiro Rank, according to whatever I read, because employees were gaming it by burning tokens without
Yes.
producing anything useful.
This is the fundamental rule in all of human nature.
Yep.
If you put in a rule or a KPI, it will be gamed.
Yeah.
You create incentives you never could have foreseen. It happens every time. And still, the whole management game is trying to put metrics in there, KPIs, what do they call it? Leading indicators. And they're never leading. They're just like deterministic KPIs that can easily be gamed. Good example, can tell some of your sales experience. I saw a sales team that started getting rewarded for leads. Oh my God. It's predictable what's going to happen there. What will happen?
Terrible quality leads. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what you're getting rewarded for.
Yeah.
And you always got to be aware of this. Like, people get rewarded for margin. They'll start gaming towards margin. They get rewarded for leads. They game towards leads. You get trash leads, right? Or if you game towards volume, watch your margin shrink like hell because they're going to lower the price just to get the volume. And you don't blame these people for that. You've created that incentive, right? And so this is not a surprise. That's my public service message. It's called The Tyranny of Metrics. Also a very good book, by the way. Once you start optimizing on one KPI, it will be gamed.
Yeah. All right. I completely agree. And this will change a little bit when token price comes down, just because I think, I read the stat that most of the tokens, 40% of the tokens or something like that, are being used reviewing the errors that AI has made itself. And as token costs and the compute cost comes down, I think we will start seeing...
That's a very good point. So I've seen a lot of commentary on token-based pricing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a dilemma because of incentives again. So why are they measuring tokens? Because it's driving the cost. So when people start to price based on tokens because their cost basis is tokens, you might unintentionally, right, in your pricing structure, create an incentive for your customers to use fewer tokens, which you don't want to do. You want customers to use your product as much as possible. So it actually happened at Amazon, right? So, well, let's see if it happens at Amazon. If they had to get rid of it because it was maybe pushing costs in the wrong direction. But you can imagine another manager reducing the incentive to use tokens because it's driving his cost center.
Budget goes away quick.
Center.
Yeah. Well, time will tell, but it's an interesting tug of war with what's going on. Okay, well, this one's been a hot button issue this week, and that is that Ferrari has unveiled its first ever fully electric vehicle. And the reception has been very rough. One analyst called it a mix between a Honda and a Tesla. The shares dropped 5% on the announcement, and the internet had really strong opinions. What did you think about the Luce, Mike?
So we've talked about brand identity a lot. Yeah. And Harley Davidson was my example. You can get trapped in a very traditional brand, and then it's very difficult to extricate yourself from that brand identity. We've seen others struggle with this. Some of the recent controversies around certain beer, or even Disney running into controversies. So that's where I took this in my brain. What is Ferrari's traditional brand? What is it? What is it to you?
It is the poster in my bedroom as a boy. Like, it's that car that's not attainable except for the very select few, and it's done that successfully for a very long time.
So it comes from racing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's racing, which means it's performance. It's luxury. It's Italian luxury. It's elitist.
Yep.
This one comes with a price tag of $550,000.
$640, I think, is the US.
$640. So okay. Yeah, not much difference there. So 500 to 600, you're signaling exclusivity, luxury, etc. You cannot have someone then say it looks like a Honda or a Tesla. Even Tesla is expensive as hell for most of us.
Yeah,
not that expensive, right? It's not that exclusive. So I think this is what's interesting for me is that it came with it being its first EV. How do you take that performance, luxury, elitist, luxury brand, right, and convert it into EV without destroying it? This is a question. Because for me, Ferrari, that's the ICE engine.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've successfully put, electric motors into cars to complement their combustion engines. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Lamborghini completely backed off their electric vehicle plans because of customer pushback. But at the end of the day, we're seeing all of this because of, in the US, we call it CAFE laws. In Europe, it's like a 90% emission reduction by 2035 is what it is now. So, and that's, of all vehicles registered. So there's ways to game that too. And vehicle manufacturers gamify the emissions.
So for people listening, that means in your fleet of cars that you produce, you got to have a certain percentage that meet the regulations, right? At least that kind of ramp up. I do have to say, this was one analyst. The ultimate arbiter of whether this will be successful or not will be the customers.
Yeah, for sure. So
I don't know, the elite, they spout off a lot of green stuff, right? So they seem to be hip with the green. The question is, will they pay $550,000 for that? I don't know. Maybe.
The closest thing
not
to
if
this,
it looks like a Honda.
The closest thing to this is the Rolls-Royce. I think it's the Spectre, the electric Spectre, and it's $500K. It's $100,000 less. It still looks like a Rolls-Royce. It is known for being quiet and supple and plush, and EV translates to that world very easily in my eyes. Whereas
it's almost too quiet.
Not from a Ferrari, right? Like it's a strange, and not even that. I mean, I still think you can make an electric vehicle cool in a Ferrari way, but this, our friend of the show, Scott Newton, this week made a post where it was comparing it directly to the Nissan Leaf. That's a terrible, terrible post for Ferraris. It's crazy. And,
that's like your Harley looks like a moped.
Yeah. And even if it's aimed at China, I did a little research about how China took it. And from what I can tell, just about the same as we did in America. Not very well, especially when you're looking at cars like Xiaomi for 30K USD, looking way cooler than this brick. It's an ugly car. Some of the interior features are cool, and it's a weird, we haven't seen it next to any other cars, but from my understanding, it's that weird size range between like an actual crossover and a car.
Like a coupe?
The Toyota Crown Insignia, if you know what that is this new weird vehicle size that I think is the same thing as the Ferrari. It's strange.
The station, maybe the station or the Elko is coming back.
Station wagons are cool, man. I will go to the grave on that one. Station wagons are cool.
One of my best friends had an El Camino in high school. I love that car.
Yeah, El Camino.
I would love to see an El Camino come back, man.
One of our baseball coaches drove like the OG Volvo V80 station wagons. Man, that thing was, in his own way, I didn't realize at the time, but he didn't give a shit at what people thought about him, and that is so cool.
That's why you drive an Elko.
Exactly. I don't know. We'll have to watch and see how it sells. I have heard that there's a VIP list that, usually among dealers have these VIP lists where their best customers get to buy the high-end, super rare cars. So you have to buy X number of cars to be the best whatever. I have heard that most dealerships with this Ferrari are not, you don't have to buy this to remain on any VIP list. Like, it's not considered. So, I mean, we'll see what sales do, because then the numbers will be tainted by people trying to get later releases, right? We'll see what it does. All right. Waymo is now dominating autonomous vehicle registrations, leaving Tesla in the dust. And this week, they debuted a brand new Robotaxi that is Chinese-made, designed to be profitable and already accepting riders. What's going on here, Mike? Tesla has 42 cars registered in Texas.
So Waymo has Waymo.
Like 577, something like that. Yeah, Waymo.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. But the article there was suggesting that Waymo is dominating Tesla. What am I going to do? They are not the same business model.
Yeah.
Waymo right now is fleets, right? It's automated robotaxis. That is not Tesla. Tesla's in a completely different game. But still, the number of registrations, didn't Elon move to Austin? If I'm not incorrect.
He moved to Starbase City or whatever they're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah, where's that Texan pride to start buying some Teslas from Elon? It's also a red state, but maybe not in Austin, right? So I think the thing I was thinking there is really fundamentally, you can't compare these two to say that one is dominating the other. And this is a good example of focusing on a KPI like registrations, which don't tell the whole story.
Well,
just don't.
Musk promised us 1,000 robotaxis by 2024. End of 2025.
So that's a good point. Why would he do that?
Because he pumps the value of his companies on baseless statements.
This is a good example of, that would be one place where you would critique his strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you ever seen the master plan that he put on his website? He puts Tesla's strategy on its website. They're up to like the third version by now, or fourth version.
I actually have it.
It was basically like three statements. We'll release this, elite luxury car, and then we're going to spread into, as it starts to gain traction, the infrastructure build, we're going to build an affordable EV for everyone.
Yep.
Okay, but that typically is a horrible strategy. To start where Ferrari is, right, as a luxury elite brand.
Yeah.
And my friends out at Berkeley used to say, well, why do people buy a Tesla? It's to show you that they have $100,000 and you don't, right? So that customer group, they do not want to be seen driving the Nissan Leaf, right? That's the whole point. If your strategy is to go from an elite car down to a commodity car, that often backfires because
Agree.
it kills your home base, which is your elite people. They don't want to be seen driving the same cars as the plebes. So that's why I point out. So does Tesla's brand identity, again, brand identity, fit with robotaxis? That's a completely different thing unless you're selling into robotaxi elite luxury fleets. I don't know. Those models exist with, the rental car companies. That could be. It's a good question. I've seen a lot of Teslas when you jump out at the airport, and it's one of the options. So, who knows?
Oh yeah, for like an Uber, for sure. Yeah, you get a Model Y, Model 3, go Uber. Makes a lot of sense. My issue with it is that Musk pumped his stock a ton on the fact that Robotaxi is going to be everywhere. I remember the event where he paraded the Robotaxi. It came out. It was a driverless vehicle. It was shaped completely different. It looked like it had a circular U couch inside of the vehicle. It's been, in their presentations for a long time, these robotaxis, and they're just not delivering on them. And they finally debut them, and they are the people I saw get in the robotaxis had a person in the passenger seat who could take over the pedals and the controls at any time, because they were not fully autonomous yet. Whereas Waymo has been doing the full autonomy thing for a while now. Now they still have issues. I've seen videos of them, stuck at a light because there was something in the road.
Well, I think you could take that away from that article. They're far ahead on, and probably even their technological approach to full automation.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, Elon hamstringed himself by saying we're going to do this all on vision only, with, just the video tech only. I think it really hamstringed them, but, we'll see.
What does Waymo use? Is it LiDAR, or what are they using?
They have a number of things. They have vision, and I know they have LiDAR on top. That's the big spinny thing. And then they have sensors and all. They have a full suite of stuff, whereas Tesla, as I understand it, is trying to just use dual cameras on the windshield.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll have to see how it turns out. I suppose we will see. Also, an interesting fact is that year over year from 2025 to 2026, Cybertruck sales are down 40%, but 75% of those sales went to SpaceX. Elon's company. Just,
Hey, man.
I don't know. One of our comments said, the fundamentals have never been great and never been better in the Mag 7. Well, maybe in 6 of them. I don't know. Okay.
Define fundamentals, right? Define fundamentals.
Yeah, define fundamentals. What is your prior on a fundamental? Hey, you've just watched a clip from Show Your Priors podcast. Check out our main channel for full episodes. We have a new one every Tuesday. If you liked what you saw, give us a like and subscribe. It's free for you and helps us out a ton. Did we miss something during our discussions? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.